Last week was an exciting time for Pathologic fans. Throughout the first week of November, we've already heard from Icepick Lodge 3 separate times in an FAQ, a devlog, and an interview with Icepick Lodge's founder and creative director Nikolai Dubowski, all in which they discussed the game we've all been waiting for, Pathologic 3. Let's start with Pathologic 3's first ever FAQ, which we received on November 1st. If you've been following along closely with the few articles we've received from Icepick Lodge over the years, then what we have here may not be news to you, but it does cover the platforms the game will release on. The first part of the FAQ addresses how originally the Bachelor and Changeling routes were planned to be released alongside Pathologic 2, or at least as DLC later on. But of course, as we know now, the Bachelor route has greatly evolved past Pathologic 2 into its own full-fledged game. Although, unfortunately, they were unable to confirm whether or not the Changeling would get a similar treatment, as they don't want to make any premature promises. Also here, they make a point to say the developer should not be an unreliable narrator unlike his characters, which is something interesting that I'm going to return to later. So, how does Pathologic 3 differ from Pathologic 2? Well, the core gameplay loop is completely different. Instead of fighting and scavenging for survival, the Bachelor will be formulating theories and gathering evidence, which, as we know from previous articles, will occur through examining sick patients, managing town resources, and time traveling to gain a better understanding of things. Next, where will the game be released? Of course, Pathologic 3 will release on Steam, but following the PC release, consoles are planned to be blessed with Pathologic 3 as well. And last in the FAQ, they discussed language localization and voice acting. Pathologic 3 will be 100% localized to Russian and English, with other languages being confirmed closer to release. Also, Icepick Lodge mentions how they'll try their best to bring back the same voice actors from Pathologic 2. I really hope everyone will be able to return. It would suck to see some of our favorite characters replaced with a new voice. Anyway, let's move on to November 4th, where Icepick Lodge was featured in Save and Sound, a multi-day live celebration of indie game music, which has now been turned into their first devlog, covering the sound and atmosphere of Pathologic 3. As Icepick Lodge put it, consider this a controlled gameplay leak of sorts, with plenty of hints and mini-teasers. We won't be explaining everything just yet, but stay tuned for more details in December. This is a showcase of mostly audio design and music, but I'll be talking about those hints and mini-teasers they mentioned, so definitely watch this for yourself. I'll have the devlog linked in the description. The devlog starts out with the CEO of Gamey Audio talking to us straight from the capital, which seems to be an actual location in-game that she's green screened into. After years of only hearing about the capital, I can't wait to finally experience it. Next, we take a look at the game's inventory system. At the top, we can see the various tabs for map, thoughts, inventory, clipboard, notes, and diary. Around Danielle, we can see equipped items such as the Plague Finder and Revolver. And I assume these two crescent bars represent health and either infection or immunity or even the Bachelor's mental state. In the short clip we have here, Daniel takes some medicine, which fills the inner crescent meter. Also here, we can see an hourglass in the center of this. What this could be displaying is currently unknown to us. It could have something to do with the time travel mechanics, or maybe it could be representative of the Bachelor's mental state, which we'll talk more about in a bit. Also, I've heard a few people throwing around the idea of this inventory system looking a bit rough, which leads people to believe that this may be an earlier concept that will be changed closer to release. After the inventory, we're treated to a short walk into Town Hall, and wow does the game look phenomenal. I can totally understand why this game is dubbed Pathologic 3. Not only is the gameplay being changed, but the game's entire look has been updated, and not just the graphics, there's new decorations all over town. And honestly, I'm loving the hyper-realistic Pathologic town look. As we enter Town Hall, we can see the entire interior has been redone, which opens up the opportunity for the inside of every building to have a brand new updated look. Next, a new game mechanic is mentioned by Icepick Lodge's audio director. Here, we're told that the game's music will change depending on the Bachelor's mental state. Daniel's mind can fall into either apathy or psychosis. How this happens exactly can only be speculated upon. Maybe Daniel's mental state changes based on the decisions he makes in town, maybe it changes based off of his infection, or maybe it's a side effect of moving through time. Following the mention of apathy and psychosis, we get to see Daniel wielding his revolver and getting jumped. Although it seems there will be combat situations in Pathologic 3, I think it might be kept to a minimum or restricted to only gunplay. Because in a previous news article, Icepick Lodge mentioned how Pathologic 3 would be lacking a combat system. Again, we get to see more of the new town with new decorations, including balconies hanging off some buildings. Also here, the apathy and psychosis meter is mentioned again. If the psychosis meter gets maxed out, Daniel will take health damage, and the screen will flash as shown here. After this, we briefly get to see the Plague Finder in action, and then more areas of the town. Just because I'm still so stunned by how the town looks, here's two areas showcased in the video, and here's how it looked in Pathologic 2. Anyway, let's get back to the devlog. Next, we're shown a glimpse of an event which takes place on day 6. And lastly, we get to see inside of the new cathedral. The updated cathedral seems to have taken more of an open look, and right in the center resides a wheel, which is confirmed to control the flow of time, reversing it or making it flow forward. Also of note is this unidentifiable dead body on the left here. We do know that Eva has a history with the cathedral, so there's a chance this could be her, but it is very hard to tell. With that, this ends off everything we're shown in Save and Sound. We got to see Pathologic 3's updated graphics, the updated town and buildings, and we were given a glimpse into the apathy and psychosis system. Now, let's move on to November 5th, when Game Rant posted an interview they had with Nikolai Dubowski. Similar to the FAQ, if you've been following along with Bachelor Root news for a while, then most of this may not be new to you, but there's still some interesting things to read here. The first question asked is concerning whether or not the game will include difficulty sliders like in Pathologic 2. To this, Nikolai replied that The Bachelor isn't about straight up survival, so he'll be dying less often. So it seems difficulty won't be included as it may not be necessary. Let's hope that Icepick Lodge won't be pressured into adding this for a second time. Question 2 tells us about the Bachelor's main investigative tools, the Plague Finder, examining patients, and environmental analysis. In another question, Nikolai tells us, we always give our heroes the right to make honest mistakes, forget, and even lie. Every narrator is an unreliable narrator. This is the second time of Icepick Lodge mentioning that Daniel may be some kind of unreliable narrator. This could be in relation to his apathy and psychosis meter, or maybe even how time traveling could have taken a toll on him. Personally, I think that after Daniel's 12 days in town, after he's taken into his indictment, he might be a completely broken person who can't properly recount the events that occurred. And that's where we come in, to relive the events in town and try to make sense of it all. Another question the interviewer asked was just plain funny. He questioned whether or not the immortal man the Bachelor is searching for has any relation to Mark Immortel, which is a relation I'm sure he came up with based off of pure word association. But we did get this great response of Nikolai saying Mark is a clown. The last question asked in this interview is, what do you hope players will take away most from Pathologic 3? To which Dubowski responded, the hope that humanity remains a promising and capable species. This was quite a week for Pathologic news, and I'm as hyped for Pathologic 3 as ever. Back in the devlog, Icepick Lodge said to stay tuned for more details in December, so here's hoping for another 7-minute long devlog of Pathologic news. Let me know what you think about all of this, but that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.